We're at the point of the NHL season where we're kind of winding down towards the end. Every NHL team has played about 70 games or so. So I figured why not let's break down the playoff race. This video is going to be on the Eastern Conference. If I don't mention your team, it's, it's because I don't think they're very good and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But let's start off with the teams I think are pretty much locks at this point to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. The Hurricanes, they're sitting at 96 points right now. Realistically, they've had this division locked down since December, so it shouldn't be a surprise that the Hurricanes are back in the playoffs. The Sabres, they have 95 points, and right now they're leading the Atlantic Division, and they're probably going to win it because they're 4 points up on Tampa Bay, who I also have as a lock to make the playoffs at 91 points. Tampa, I'm sorry for saying that I didn't think you'd make the playoffs. I understand. You're still a good team. I get it. I promise not to be an idiot like that again. But those are the only three teams that I really see as locks at this point in the season to make the playoffs. So now, let's talk about teams that are kind of on the fringe right now. And we'll start off with the Philadelphia Flyers. Real quick, I'm not going to be talking about the Washington Capitals in this video because yeah, they're only 1 point behind the Flyers, but the problem is that the Flyers have played two less games than the Capitals, and I don't really think the Capitals are good enough. And then there's the giant drop off in the East, so not going to be talking about the Capitals. But I will talk about the Flyers, who are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They have 80 points in 69 games, and right now they are 5 points back of a playoff spot. They're playing well right now, surprisingly so. But yeah, recently they're playing well and they find themselves kind of back in the thick of the playoff race, which is kind of crazy to be saying, but that's how it stands right now. Next, we have the Ottawa Senators. The Senators have 81 points in 69 games, also 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're 1 point above the Flyers, and this Senators team is very interesting to me because you look at the roster, and the roster is actually not bad. The roster itself is not bad at all. But the goaltending this season has been so bad. If they want to make a run at the playoffs, the goaltending is going to have to improve. But they're playing well right now. They're playing some really good hockey, and we're just going to have to see if that continues down the stretch. And if it does, and one of these other teams ahead of them falls off a bit, they very well could see themselves in the playoffs. The Red Wings are currently 1 point back, sitting at 84 points, 70 games, 4-4-2 record in their last 10. The Red Wings are very interesting to me. Started off the season, they were one of the best teams in the league. Since then, they've kind of phased out a little bit. I know they're dealing with some injuries right now. John Gibson has played, 6, 7 games in a row for that team. I think he needs a break right now. So I would not be surprised to see the backup get the next start. But yeah, right now the Red Wings, they find themselves 1 point back of a playoff spot. They're currently trailing the New York Islanders, who find themselves in that second wild card spot on the day I'm recording this. 85 points, 71 games, 5-5 in their last 10 games. This team is built on their defense. And their defense is mainly why they're here, and it's kind of been their identity the past however long. They get good goaltending from Sorokin, and they play good defense in front of him. And then they do just enough scoring to get the wins. Recently, they've lost a few games that they probably should have won, although they did get the win last night in a shutout victory, 1-0 game. Just as I was talking about, they play good defense and they score just enough to get the job done. So, if this team finds themselves in the playoffs and Sorokin gets hot, would not be surprised to see this team even go on a Stanley Cup run. And Matthew Schaefer has been the guy for the Islanders. Next team, the Boston Bruins. They're sitting at 86 points in 70 games, 5-2-3 in their last 10 games. The Bruins, they're a feisty team. They They will hit you a lot. They're a young team for the most part. It's not terribly uncommon to see young teams, however, fizzle out and run out of gas late in the season. Is that going to happen with the Bruins? Right now, I've seen no signs of seeing that that's going to be the case. Sitting at third place in the Atlantic Division, we have the Montreal Canadiens. 86 points, 70 games, 5-4-1 in their last 10. This team is interesting to me for a couple reasons. One, Cole Caulfield has been phenomenal this season. He's sitting at 43 goals. He's always been one of my favorite players in the league. But the goaltending, not the best. If one of their goaltenders could play average, yeah, I think this is a very dangerous team if they can get into the playoffs. It's not a guarantee as of right now, though. Sitting at third place in the Metropolitan Division, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets. 85 points, 70 games, 6-1-3 in their last 10. This team has been on an absolute hot streak, needless to say, ever since they got Rick Bowness as their head coach. He has completely turned this team around. They were bottom of the Eastern Conference at one point, and now they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're sitting at second place. I mean, what more can I say? This team is playing, they are firing on all cylinders right now, and they're a super fun team to watch, too. The last team I'm going to be talking about in this video are the Pittsburgh Penguins. 86 points, 70 games, 4-3-3 in their last 10. This team is also very interesting to me. They're not the best team. They're certainly not the most talented team, but they're a scrappy bunch. They find ways to stay in games, barring, what happened on Sunday against the Hurricanes, but that's aside the point. For the most part, this team finds ways to stay in games, and they find ways to get points out of it. I think the 16 overtime losses speak for themselves. Speaks for itself, rather. Yeah, that makes more sense. But yeah, this team is a feisty bunch. I don't think they're the most talented team, not even remotely. But this is a team that is able to win any game, and they're able to lose any game as well. But yeah, those are all the teams that I think have a good chance of making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Well, maybe not good, but a chance nonetheless. Now let's go over some notable matchups. In the Penguins' last 12 games, they're going to play the Senators, the Islanders, and the Red Wings, all within that stretch. All of those, obviously, big games, important games, and they also have a few more division games as well. The Blue Jackets, they play the Flyers, the Canadiens twice, the Bruins twice, the Detroit Red Wings. All of these games are important Eastern Conference games. And all of these important games that I'm mentioning here are going to dictate how the rest of this season plays out. Canadiens, they play the Flyers, the Jackets twice, the Islanders, the Bruins, the Jackets twice, and the Flyers. There are a lot of teams, once again. I believe the team that plays the least amount of games like that on this list are the Penguins. And they play 3 or 4. No, they play 3. I just mentioned them. They play 3. But we'll see how that goes. I'll give my predictions here in a bit. The Bruins, they play the Jackets twice, and they play the Flyers down the stretch. The Islanders, they play the Penguins, the Flyers, Senators, Canadiens. I'm looking at my notes because I can't remember all these off the top of my head. Cut me some slack here. The Red Wings, they play the Senators, the Penguins, the Jackets, the Flyers 3 times throughout these last 12 games or however many they have left. They have 12 games left. Play the Flyers 3 times. So 5 of their last 12 games, 6. 6 of their last. Half of their games are against Eastern Conference teams that are vying for those last few playoff spots. You have the Senators playing the Red Wings, the Penguins, and the Islanders. The Flyers playing the Jackets, the Detroit Red Wings 3 times. The Islanders, the Bruins, Canadiens. All of these games are going to be important down the stretch. I'm looking forward to seeing how it finishes. What I think is going to happen, however, is going to be the Hurricanes finishing first in the Metro. Then the Jackets finish second, jumping the Penguins. I just think this team is super hot right now. They are on fire. They're probably the best coach team in the league right now. I don't think there's really any argument there. And the Penguins I have finishing third in the Metro. And I have the Penguins here because they've only gotten healthier recently. And as I said, they're a scrappy bunch. Crosby and Malkin recently came back, and they're able to stay in any game. I think this Penguins team is good enough to make the playoffs. Maybe that's my bias speaking, but I think this team is good enough to make the playoffs. As for the Atlantic Division, I have the Buffalo Sabres finishing first place, Tampa Bay Lightning finishing second, and the Montreal Canadiens finishing third. So right now in the Atlantic, I have nothing changing. And simply put, I think these are the three best teams in the Atlantic Division right now. The Sabres, they are like the Blue Jackets. They're very hot right now. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. And they have been dismantling teams left and right, except for the Ducks last night. The Lightning, they are an all-around good team. There isn't really a weak point on that team. And Montreal, I think if their goaltending is good enough, which it has been so far this season, it will propel them into the playoffs. And in the two wildcard spots, I was debating this for a while. I really, really was. I was thinking maybe the Senators, they jumped back into it. Didn't really ever consider the Flyers, to be honest with you. The Islanders, of course, are a great team. However, I ultimately decided to go with the Red Wings because I think the Red Wings are very. They have a lot of depth on that team. And I think once John Gibson gets some rest, I think he's going to be able to propel this team into a playoff spot. I think he's going to play well enough to get them to a playoff spot. And that's how I see things going. And as for the Bruins, as I mentioned, they're a young team, and I have them finishing in the second wildcard spot. Probably playing Carolina, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Buffalo either. But Bruins, they are a young team, and I haven't seen any signs of them letting off the gas pedal, and I don't think they're going to. So unfortunately, this does mean I have the Islanders, Senators, and the Flyers missing out on the playoffs. I think the Islanders are going to be like 1 point back, or they lose the tiebreaker. It's going to be a super, super close race. But I have the Islanders missing out just because one thing about the Islanders that scares me is their power play. Yeah, a lot of the reason why I have the Islanders and the Senators and the Flyers all missing out is their special teams. The Senators, they have like I think the third worst penalty kill in the league right now. It's not good. And the Islanders, I think they're like tied for 27th or something. It's like 16, 17%, somewhere around there with their power play. And the Flyers, I think, are dead last in power play, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, it's not. The special teams aren't very good, and that can really hurt a team down the stretch. Say you're down by one with 6 minutes left in the game, you get a power play, and you can't capitalize on it. That loses you games. And to me, and you can say the opposite about the penalty kill. You're up by one, or it's a tie game with 8 minutes left, and you let up a goal because your penalty kill is bad on the power play. You know, that loses you games. And so, for that reason, that is why I ultimately have the Islanders and the Senators and the Flyers missing out on the playoffs. Just barely by maybe like a point or two. But yeah, super exciting race. I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, have a great day.